The year is 2022. Crypto has just had its largest crash in history. Miners are starting to turn off their rigs. There are more graphics cards out on the market now than we've ever had before. In fact, there are so many graphics cards on the second-hand market now that even vendors are selling below MSRP to try and get rid of them. What does that mean for the gamer? It means that gamers are finally going to reap the rewards of the last 2 years of suffering. Now in today's video, we will be benchmarking the mid to high end. We have a 2080 Ti, a 6700 XT, and a 3070 Ti. Now the goal is, as graphics cards get lower and lower and lower in price, these three are going to be very achievable for the mass market. Now for today's video, we're going to be using the pricing that I bought these cards for at the time of recording this video, but pro tip, if you can hold off until the 4000 series announcement, you will probably be able to get these cards for half the price of what I paid for them. Now, first and foremost, this video was brought to you by the supporters. Obviously, all product reviews on this channel are unbiased, unsponsored, and all provided by you guys, the supporters. So even if you can't afford to support, just do me a favor and leave a comment down below thanking those who did so that I could bring this content to you guys. Now let's go over a quick rundown of these cards here. This one over here, this Mammoth, is a 3070 Ti, I think Aorus Extreme. It's got the LCD on it and everything. This cooler is bigger than most 3090s. Now, the reason why I got this one, the power limit, obviously. This one has two 8-pins and one 6-pin. Now, this one in the middle here is a 6700 XT, two 8-pins. Now this card, even though I used more power tools to get more power limit, it was unnecessary. This thing never pulled more than 200 watts, even in 4K max settings. So the efficiency award for this tier of product goes to AMD. This thing legit pulls half the amount of power as the other two cards. It is pretty crazy. Now this one over here is a 2080 Ti Gaming X Trio. This was the beefiest air-cooled 2080 Ti that I could find. I got this one for 700 Canadian dollars, which is about 500 USD, give or take. So going forward, just assume that this one was around 500 USD. That's kind of the price that they're going for here on eBay. Now this one also, I had to flash a Lightning Z BIOS on it. That one's like 380 watts. This one pulls 400 watts in 4K. So at max overclocks, 400 watts, 350 watts, 200 watts. Now for the test setup for today, we are going to be using my Ryzen 7 5800X3D max overclocked system. Basically, that platform can utilize all the features of these graphics cards in their entirety so that they show them in the best light. Now, one last pro tip before we get into the benchmarks. If you are buying a second-hand 2080 Ti, you need to confirm with the seller first that it has Samsung memory. You will not get the results that you see here today if it has Hynix or Micron memory on it. It has to have Samsung memory. How do you verify this? You just tell them to open GPU Z. Look at the bottom left there. It'll say the memory type right there. If it does not have Samsung, you do not buy it. So I think I've rambled on long enough. We're doing 1080p, 1440p, 4K, 1% lows, ray tracing, esports, and single-player games, the whole gambit. Okay, so to start us off, we're going to ease into some Shadow of the Tomb Raider here because this game will show the synthetic theoretical maximum performance of all three of these graphics cards. So you can see at the top there the clock speed and the power draw and the FPS of all three cards. So the goal of this benchmark is just that. We want to see how these graphics cards perform against each other in the best possible case scenario, because this game engine will utilize any architecture at their maximum. For this benchmark, we use the high preset, no DLSS, no ray tracing. We're just using full rasterization performance on all three of the cards. So let's pull up the 1080p results here first. Now the 6700 XT trails the other two cards by about 6%, which is actually way better than I thought. So Big Navi performs very well in this game at 1080p. The 2080 Ti and 3070 Ti are exactly identical in this benchmark. In 1440p, the results are pretty much exactly the same. The two bottom cards are within margin of error of each other, and the 6700 XT trails a little bit further behind by 9%. And in 4K, the 6700 XT trails the other two cards behind by 19%. So that's quite large drop in performance for 4K for this 70 class card. And the other two are identical again, so both Ampere and Turing are scaling linearly in this game. Metro Exodus Enhanced Edition is next. This is the ray tracing only version of the game. We are using the high quality preset, medium ray tracing preset, no DLSS, no FSR, none of that. So this is just raw ray tracing and rasterization performance in this game. So this game seems to favor the Ampere architecture quite a bit here. You have the 3070 Ti 9% faster than the 2080 Ti and over 20% faster than the 6700 XT. But no surprises there. The Big Navi architecture was never, I want to say the ray tracing was never its strong suit. But honestly, 95 FPS and 57 in the lows, that's not unplayable. You could play this game quite comfortably with that card. In 1440p, the margins tighten up for the two NVIDIA cards, and now they both pull about 40% or more farther away to the 6700 XT. So the 6700 XT seems to run out of steam the higher up the resolution you go. And yeah, you can see here the margins in 4K, the NVIDIA cards are almost twice as fast than the averages. So if you do want to play this game in 4K, you're going to need an NVIDIA card. Horizon Zero Dawn is next, and the goal of this one is to see if the AMD optimizations for console ports can make Big Navi catch up. And yes, it does. Well, sort of. It catches up to the 2080 Ti, but not the 3070 Ti. Now, what this tells me is that this game is using that smart access memory and that resizable bar feature, both of which the 2080 Ti does not support. So it is artificially gimped in this title, which is unfortunate because there's no reason why NVIDIA can't go back and enable that feature for Turing. It could also be PCI Express 4.0 versus 3.0, also which the 2080 Ti doesn't support. That we can test, but we'll have to do that in a future video. In 1440p, we see those margins close up here as the raw horsepower of the 2080 Ti catches up to the planned obsolescence features of the other two graphics cards. And I say that just because I'm salty that NVIDIA won't go back and support cards that are able to support the features, essentially screwing over Turing buyers. In 4K, the 2080 Ti passes the 6700 XT and catches up and closes that margin with the 3070 Ti. Now, the Final Fantasy 15 benchmark is like a 20-minute long benchmark, so I can't show you too much footage here. And it also doesn't give you detailed information. It just kind of spits out a score at the end. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to post up all of the scores onto one page for you for simplicity's sake. So the 2080 Ti and the 3070 Ti have completely identical performance in this game at all three resolutions. Both of these cards are anywhere from 20% to 30% faster than the AMD graphics card. This game was always kind of a weird one because it was a Sony port, so you'd think it would do well with AMD, but it was also an NVIDIA sponsored title for when DLSS actually came out. So it's kind of it works better with NVIDIA cards, but it did come from console anyway. We've got a new one here for you today, Elden Ring with the FPS unlock mod, because 60 FPS is really hard for my eyes to watch. So when you actually play this game at a 120 FPS locked, it makes a big difference. So all three graphics cards here in 1080p perform very well. The 6700 XT suffers from a little bit of AMD driver syndrome, maybe, or possible architecture syndrome. But when we move over to 1440p, you can actually see that the AMD graphics card, the averages go down, but the lows stay the same. So there is some kind of weird bug going on there. So if you're playing at 1440p, you'll probably have the same gaming experience as you would if you were playing on 1080p with the AMD card. The 3070 Ti and the 3080 Ti perform basically identical at all three resolutions here. And if you're doing 4K 60, you can actually do that really well on all three of these cards, as long as they have the available power limit. All right, Cyberpunk 2077, another new one for the channel. I only did 4K for this one because we actually did use DLSS and FSR. So ray tracing was set to medium, DLSS was set to balanced, and FSR was also set to balanced. Now, I don't know anything about FSR. I've never used it before, so I don't know the visual quality of it or anything like that. So I just used the balanced mode for argument's sake, just for the benchmark for the video. But I have no idea if it's actually the correct setting or not. But regardless, here are the results, and what these results tell us is that this game is ass cheeks, and you shouldn't play it. Now, just for funsies, here are some Port Royal scores that I got with these three cards. The 2080 Ti seems to have the highest ray tracing raw potential out of the three cards. Of course, depending on game engine, but in a perfect synthetic world, it wins by a few points. And then the AMD card, they have a long way to come when it comes to ray tracing, but hopefully next gen they might have something on their hands. Last but not least, Warzone, we are going to start with 1080p. Now, keep in mind that the latest beta driver was used for the AMD graphics card for these runs. The newest driver was the one that was supposed to fix all of the problems and increase AMD performance by 10 to 20% or whatever. Now, as you can see, if you look at the AMD FPS number, the average FPS is extremely high, higher than the other two. If you look at the number just to the right of it, the 1% low number, it is atrocious. It is completely unplayable. This is the reason why every dumbass Warzone optimizer always recommends the AMD graphics card, because the FPS counter on the top left is extremely high. So it makes you think like you have a lot more FPS than you actually do. But the gameplay actual performance is terrible. The new beta driver does not fix AMD graphics cards in Warzone. It does not. And keep in mind, this is also with a overclocked 5800X3D with the same memory tuning on all three of these graphics cards. If you are a Warzone player, I implore you, do not get an AMD graphics card. Yes, you might see 300 to 400 FPS on the counter. No, it will not make you a better player. In fact, it will make you a worse one. If you don't believe me, then I wish you well. All right, we're going to do one more run at 1440p here. Now, exactly the same thing. The AMD graphics card has extremely high average FPS. The 1% lows are terrible. They are god-awful. In 1440p, your gaming experience will be garbage. Now, if you do get scammed with an AMD graphics card, be sure to head on over to my website and pay for a consult so I can tell you I told you so. All right, so here is a little spreadsheet that I wrote up for you guys. It's kind of a buyer's guide. On the left here, you have your graphics cards, and in the middle here, you have the June 2022 price at the time of recording this video. $480 for the 6700 XT, $585 for the 2080 Ti, and $720 for the 3070 Ti. Now, the 6700 XT here, the one that I found was this one here. I picked ones that were the cheapest, but that could also handle the higher power limits. Same as the ones that I did in the video, right? Same as the benchmarks. So this is kind of, I'll link all these down in the description below. If you want to support the channel, you want to pick one of these up, use my affiliate code. Greatly helps me out. Next, the 2080 Ti. Now, this one you're going to have to go find in your local markets, eBay, you know, deal hunt around. You can't buy this new, obviously. But the one that I found on eBay was this one here. It was, oops, wrong one. This Zotac one, 2080 Ti, triple fan, $585 shipped, free shipping. This one could also handle the higher power limits, right? So, and this was also buy it now. You might be able to find better deals if you go like make offer or auction or whatever. Just for the sake of argument, we're even going to be using this price though, right? And then for the 3070 Ti, this was the cheapest beefy triple fan one that I could find, and the 3070 Ti is no slouch. It does pull a lot of power, so you got to get one of these big triple fan ones. Do not get the Zotac double fan. But anyway, $720 for this one. And again, links for all these in the description below. So with that in mind, these are the prices. This is the performance bracket of these graphics cards. We're going to use the 2080 Ti as the baseline. The 3070 Ti performs functionally the same. It's a little bit better, trades blows here and there. I gave it 2% just because of the Warzone. It's a bit better in Warzone, so I got a little bump, right? Now, the 6700 XT is about 25% slower than the other ones on average. This does not include the ray tracing performance, though. If I put the ray tracing numbers in here, this would be more like half as fast, and that's just disingenuous, right? So I'm gonna assume if you're interested in ray tracing, you're not going to be getting this card here, okay? So I'm just gonna go with that. So 75%. Now this field here is the value per percent of performance, right? So clearly the 2080 Ti is the best bang for buck all around. It's got all the features, the ray tracing, the DLSS, and the FPS. 6700 XT is second, and then the 3070 Ti is the worst value. But here is the caveat field, the features field, right? PCI Express 4.0, HDMI 2.1, smart access memory, 12 gigs of RAM, right? The 2080 Ti has none of those things. It only has 11 gigs of RAM. The 3070 Ti has every feature that you could possibly want. HDMI 2.1 if you had like an LG OLED, bar, PCI Express 4.0, but it only has 8 gigs of RAM. So that's, yeah. So I can't really tell you what to do. If you're playing in 4K on a TV, you want the HDMI 2.1. On the other hand, you don't want the 8 gigs of RAM for that. So no matter which one you pick, you're going to be compromising somewhere. And this is kind of the struggle that you have as a mid to high end buyer. No matter which one you pick, you're going to have to sacrifice something. And I'm going to leave that decision up to you. Your mileage of performance will vary based on the silicon quality, the model that you get, and the power limit. Anyway, guys, that's it for this one. Again, comment down below, and please thank the supporters of the channel who can buy 3 graphics cards out of their own pocket for videos like this. If you like the content, hit that subscribe button, do all that YouTube SEO stuff, like, share, subscribe. You should have already commented down below, and I hope you guys learned something, and I'll see you in the next one. Talk to you later.